Welcome to the first episode of the Books, Travel, Life podcast, where we create harmony in the world by sharing the love of reading, exploring, and living. On today's show, I will discuss the book Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom and how it's impacted my life and continues to impact the lives of others around the world. I will also discuss a recent trip my family took to Omaha, Nebraska, a wonderful city in the Midwest, as well as my love-hate relationship with running. So stay tuned for today's episode. The book I'm going to discuss this week is Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. Mitch Albom paints a wonderful story and a wonderful picture of the last months of Morrie Schwartz's life. Morrie was one of Mitch's teachers at Brandeis University, and it's just a great overall telling of how life really begins when we understand that we're going to die, and death is such a almost taboo topic to discuss. So as I read this book for the first time, I began to collect and began to think about the lessons that Morrie teaches Mitch throughout the last months of Morrie's life. And some of those lessons are like accepting your own abilities and understanding that we all have a purpose. The second lesson that I picked up from Tuesdays with Morrie is to accept your past. Many of us have different skeletons in the closet or different past experiences that we have that we may not be necessarily proud about, but they shaped us to who we are today. Lesson 3, forgiveness. Throughout time, people hurt our feelings. We don't get what we want sometimes. We build and hold grudges against people. So being able to forgive gives us a freeing way to live. Get involved. Getting involved is something that a lot of us are sometimes too involved in everything, but to just find that one thing to be involved in and to do it greatly. And then the final one is to have no regrets. Enjoy life. Enjoy the journey. Take risks. Sometimes whenever I talk to high school kids about taking risks, I don't mean like life-threatening risks, but I mean take risks that are calculated risks. I think you should read this book for a number of reasons. It gives you a different perspective on life. It has so many great one-line tidbits of information that Morrie shares with Mitch that can be life-changing. I teach it to students because I feel that it's important for them to get a grasp of life and what's important in life. And that's what Morrie does in the last months of his life, is talk about what really matters, and that money doesn't matter, and that culture and the way that they feel and what they tell us that we need to be is not really the case, especially when you're dying. So with that said, if you have a book that you want reviewed or discussed on this program, please send me an email at jeremy@bookstravellife.com. And now a word from today's sponsor. Do you have an unfinished creative work in your life? Are you starting a creative project? Are you overwhelmed, blocked, or uncertain? Are you struggling with where to go next? Live Happy Life Coach can help you overcome creative blocks that stand in the way of completing your projects, inspire you to think bigger and work more productively, overcome fears, doubts, and anxiety that distract our creative minds. For more information on Live Happy Life Coach, click the Life Coaching tab on bookstravellife.com. Now back to today's show. A few summers ago, my family and I traveled to Omaha, Nebraska for a vacation. We found out that a children's museum had a display of The Wizard of Oz, and that's a story that I've always loved to read and learn about. So I thought, let's take my family to Omaha, Nebraska, this children's museum. So we loaded up the car about 4 a.m., left home. It was about an 8-hour drive to visit the children's museum that afternoon. Unfortunately, when we got there, it was closed on Mondays. So we had traveled eight and a half hours to find that the children's museum was closed. So the dad I am almost has the Clark Griswold moment, as in whenever he arrives to Wally World and finds out it's closed for 2 weeks. But I soon found that there was many other things to visit and do it in Omaha. And one of those things is a lot of free things. The pedestrian bridge, the Bob Carey pedestrian bridge, carries a bridge across the Missouri River and connects Nebraska with Iowa. So we walked across that bridge and basically we could stand a state away from our kids as they stood on one side and we stood on the other. And it was just a neat experience to explain that to them and show them that we can stand in two states, Iowa, and we can stand in Nebraska, just a few feet apart. From there, the skyline of Omaha is beautiful, especially around sunset time. Another thing that we did in Omaha, besides the Children's Museum, we visited a park that had these two-story slides, almost two-story slides. They were pretty tall slides, and just a fun, free thing to do with kids and let the kids go up and down the slides. And my son found out that if you use wax paper on the slides, that you can basically slide off the end of them. Something I wasn't too keen of as a father, but he seemed to be enjoying himself, and my daughter as well, once she got over her jitters of being nervous. And then the final thing that we really did there in Omaha was the zoo. It was amazing. The Omaha Zoo has the largest desert biome in the world. It's known for having one of the largest indoor rainforests, and also just a great overall aquarium to visit in Omaha. So we really enjoyed our time there. And as we try to find places that are closer to home, Omaha was a great place, even though it was a little over 8 hours. Books Travel Life strives to create harmony in the world by sharing our love of reading, exploring, and living. Do you have a suggestion for a book, a place to travel, or a life topic to discuss on the show? Let us know by emailing Jeremy at jeremy@bookstravellife.com. Last weekend, I was supposed to finish my first ever marathon, and it didn't happen. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe even longer than that, maybe 2 months ago, I can't even remember when, but I struggled with a injury with my IT band where it was stretched, and I would get a knot on my left knee pretty bad, so that kind of canceled the marathon plans that I had planned. Unfortunately, I kind of got bummed about it because it's out of my control, and injury is out of your control, but it was a bummer, and so I started to kind of get down, quit running altogether because of the pain, and then slowly I began to gradually get back into it to where I'm between 3 and 4 miles again, which feels awesome. But the unexpected injury kept me from meeting my goal, which like I said, was a total bummer, as I had been training and been up to 10 to 12 miles, and then boom, injury. But starting up running is usually a difficult task, but once I got into it, it's a great activity, great for the mind, great to get out there and sweat, which is what I love most about running, is getting out there and sweating, and then running with friends and talking about life and sharing life with them is really a great thing. The thing I hate most is, of course, getting up early and then just the overall feeling of just starting. But once I get into the groove of running and distance and talking, it turns out to be a very great thing. So what do you like to do for exercise? Is it running? Is it walking? Is it dancing? Is it yoga? All these different things can help benefit your life and make you more physically fit, mentally fit, and ultimately spiritually fit. Thank you for tuning in to the Books Travel Life podcast. Look forward to seeing you next week so we can create harmony in the world by sharing the love of reading, exploring, and living. Have a great week.